Welcome to All Out Karma.
What a victory!
Welcome to All Out Karma Machine. That's Aaron. That's
Greetings.
Max. We have Josh now. We can see his beautiful face.
And his roommate.
And his roommate. Whoever that is. We don't know. It's his roommate.
Okay.
Anyway, podcast number 4. Production quality's gone up a little bit. Yay!
By the smallest of margins, and
By the
because
small-
it was free.
By the
quick
smallest of
question.
margins and because it costs $0.
guys-
Tonight we're talking about patriotism. Now Josh has the floor. Go,
Yeah,
Josh.
one quick thing. Are you guys planning not to have the video on for this one? Because I can't see your smiling faces.
It does. Okay, the software does a weird thing because to get your picture, my recording software is recording the window, and if I show you our faces,
Then the internet sees
then
our
there's
faces in two
double
spots.
yeah, this is double our faces because you know how Skype does a little window thing down in the right hand corner.
Is there a way to turn that
Yes.
off?
No, not without.
No, without turning off the
there
webcam.
might-
Anyway,
well,
now that we've
oh,
discussed
that's
really
another
boring
quick thing.
technical details, patriotism.
Yes. Okay, on topic now, because Skype is clearly unpatriotic, it won't show me your faces. Anyway.
Of course.
Okay,
Stupid Skype.
so patriotism is an insult. Like, you can call somebody unpatriotic, right? I mean,
Yes.
what does that even mean, though? Honestly.
Good
This is the question for tonight. What actually is patriotism, and how is it best expressed? I think there have been a lot of discrepancies in the ways that people have approached the question in the past. Like, for instance, we have the Patriot Act, which I'm sure Casey has a lot to say about as we go on with this podcast. But
That
the
was
first
his
thing I
face.
wanted to say is just that I think, personally, patriotism certainly does not mean unconditional loyalty to your state. I would disagree with that strongly, because that kind of means even if your state is like initiating Holocaust against the Jews, that you still support your state. So there were an awful lot of, in that sense, patriotic
Thanks,
Nazis.
Erwin Rommel, who wasn't
You
a
know,
Nazi, was just a patriot.
Yeah, exactly. And
Poor guy.
you get people like Goebbels, I think it was, or was it Hermann Goering? I can't remember which of the two was Hitler's propaganda dude, but
It was
basically
Goebbels.
the message was, you're not a patriot if you're not in support of literally everything your government does. And so when you apply that to America, it means, well, I have to approve of the massacre at My Lai over in Vietnam, and I have to approve of the U.S. government dropping bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I have to approve of the U.S. arming terrorists over in the Middle East, and I don't. Like, I
Well,
don't agree
okay.
with those things.
I agree with all but one of those things, because like dropping the bombs in the long run were probably for the
That's
best.
another podcast. Let's not get there.
Okay, that's fair.
That
That's
is another one.
That's another podcast.
Okay, so this is my point, right? Does me not agreeing with those things make me unpatriotic?
Yes.
If your name is Donald Trump, then yes.
Okay, I actually think I have a good definition of patriotism.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
Let's hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, a bird!
That's funny.
Would you like me to go closer with
I
that?
don't even know what's going on right now.
Bravo. Bravo.
I don't.
Did we mention that these are recorded live in front of
And I
a neighborhood?
Fuck it, we'll do it live!
Hey, watch your language.
Thanks, Bill O'Reilly.
Yay!
Oh,
Another
no.
person who I'd say doesn't really fit the definition of a patriot.
Yeah.
But-
Anyway, so a good definition of patriotism would be love of country and wanting to see its betterment, right? Truly loving its country and just wanting what's best for it, not blindly, not blind adherence to whatever the government says, but I love this country and I want to do everything that I can to make it the best country.
Okay.
So I mean,
Seems pretty reasonable.
yeah, it's a good definition.
Does that mean that? Does that like place your country's betterment even at the expense of another country?
Ooh, interesting. Well, okay. Here's the
That's
thing,
the
though.
kind of question that we're getting into here. you know?
That's a fair question, and obviously, like wanting to better your country, it gets a little hairy once you say wanting what's best for your country, because obviously we all have different ideals. You know, the Bernie Sanders supporters
Right.
want to become Venezuela and have bread lines for days. And then you have the fascists who support Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and they both hate each other's guts, not realizing that they're literally the exact same.
Yeah, that's actually completely
It's Yeah, that kind of is a topic in and of itself.
Yeah,
We might touch on that later.
But like you could call all of these people patriots in different ways, right? They all want to see their country better, and they have a different view of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could still again call them patriots because they're not. It's not blind adherence to their government, even when they think it's wrong. It's I love this country, I want to make it better, and obviously everyone has a different worldview, and they've been given different sets of information throughout their life, so they're going to come to different conclusions on how you get to a better country.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So here's another question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in situations like, is it a matter of your motivation, or is it a matter of your actual just outward behavior? Because the thing is, there are a lot of things that people do that I would say are not actually conducive to what's best for America. Like, for instance, case in point, Bernie Sanders wants to enact some things that economically I think would do serious damage.
Or
to
Trump
economy.
trying to put a 35% tariff on
35.
Ford trucks if they
goods,
manufacture
yeah.
in Mexico.
Exactly. So
Which
stuff
would
like that.
actually better both America and Mexico, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. So this is the weird thing is I don't even know, is it okay for me to say that people who advocate those things are unpatriotic? Because it seems to me like it's more of a motivation than it's actually a particular type of character. And I think people use it to criticize particular kinds of character or particular actions rather than to actually point out a fact or a facet of somebody's character. Like, Casey, I would call you patriotic because you live in America and you want to see America,
Make
doing
America
well.
great again.
No.
And I would say the
Well,
same
I mean,
about
yes,
myself.
but not that way.
Right, and I'm not, I would even call Bernie Sanders to some degree patriotic, or Barack Obama patriotic, even though there are people who would call him...
Well, by the definition I've laid out, they absolutely... Well, I don't know about Obama because I don't think he actually... there is some evidences that he doesn't care about America and doesn't want to make it great again, and then he's just a narcissist who just wants the country to be his. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I kind of object to people using patriotism or unpatriotism as sort of an insult to people. If you're targeting somebody's behavior and you're saying that's unpatriotic behavior, I think that's not the right understanding of patriotism.
Yeah. So you're saying you agree with the definition I laid out?
Yeah,
of patriotism? Okay.
I do.
But
I
think
come
it's...
at it from a little different angle there,
Yeah. I think they're fair definitions.
It's really kind of tricky because at the same time, patriotism, it's not just limited to nationalism. You could be, in a sense, patriotic about, say, a religion or a mode of thought of any kind, really.
Okay.
It's kind of just it's really complicated to kind of try and figure out exactly what it is and how to nail it down, I think.
Yeah. God, it is just really hard because, even the definition we laid out, you can't really go into, policy and, call different policies patriotic or unpatriotic. Case in point, I always jokingly refer to the Patriot Act as the unpatriotic act, because it just violates... Which amendment, Josh? Help me out here. I'm stumbling. Oh, no.
Well, it violates all of them?
Search and seizure.
It's like search and seizure. It's and it's search and seizure.
Let me bring out my pocket constitution, which I have sitting right here because I'm patriotic. Okay.
Pocket
I
Constitution.
do not have
Yay.
my copy of the Federalist Papers on me, unfortunately.
Dang
I
it.
have that too.
I thought you just carried those with you all the time.
They're normally in my jacket, because when I find time to read, I do.
Oh, no, it's the Fourth Amendment. Yep.
Fourth, okay.
Unreasonable searches and seizures.
Yeah. Mostly that. I mean, because, what was it? That Oregon ranch, or seizure of, a Bureau of Land Management building. That whole thing where the Bundy ranchers, when seized that, I don't agree with the way that the Bundy ranchers protested that, but it was actually a legitimate protest against legitimate government abuses because the Bureau of Land Management... what the situation is some ranchers owned a ranch and they were doing some controlled burning on their property, right? their fire got out of control and started burning federally owned land, right? So they got, they suffered the appropriate legal consequences for letting the fire burn off their land, right? Anyway, several years later, after everything is done and settled, right? The BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management. The Bureau of Land Management uses a Patriotic Act, Unpatriotic Act subsection or something to arrest these guys again on terrorism charges, right? So these ranchers,
the same thing?
Huh? Yeah, for the same thing, right? I feel like there's an amendment about that in the Constitution. You won't be, put in jeopardy of life and limb.
Yeah, that's the double jeopardy.
Double jeopardy thing? Yeah, no.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, I mean, they're technically different charges, so it doesn't apply. But it was a legitimate abuse of government power, right? And that's why I would call, that's part of why this whole act is unpatriotic, is because these guys paid the properly, they were properly punished through standard legal procedures for letting their fire get out of control. And then the BLM comes back again and arrests them, and they can get away with it now because of terrorism. Even though it was several years after the fact, and that's bullcrap, So
yeah, that's ridiculous. What was the BLM even trying to accomplish there? Because it had all been dealt with and settled.
Yeah.
Why open it up again?
I don't know. They probably wanted the land.
To make a point, maybe?
They probably wanted the land.
All it takes is one person trying to make an example out of somebody else.
The Bureau of Land Management, I've heard a lot of really bad abusive stories from the BLM. It's a bad bureaucracy that really just has it out for ranchers.
Yeah.
Because I think, even the original Bundy case, despite how racist, and I think he was racist, I don't remember, it's been a long time, despite how, kind of horrible he may have actually been, he had a legal case, a proper legal case. Because I think what happened with his thing is the BLM said, yeah, you can let your cows graze on federal land, and then they showed up, no, you can't, government, greed, corruption. And he's like, what? And then a bunch of people showed up and did an armed protest. And it was, I guess, I don't know. I don't think that's quite... things like that need to be protest.
I don't think it warranted an armed protest.
Yeah, armed protest should be reserved for, we're repealing the First Amendment, martial law type deals. We're repealing the Second Amendment should spawn armed demonstrations.
Casey, grab your rifle. That's a piece of history.
No, not right now. We're doing a podcast.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess most of us would call those kinds of actions by the BLM unpatriotic, but there are some people who would justify it and call it patriotic because it's in line with the law.
Yeah. Patriotism is very subjective, and I don't think it can become an objective. I don't think we could give it a more objective definition, because again, it's about love of country and wanting to see it be better, and everyone has different views on that.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who would call me unpatriotic because, honestly, justifying the support of any one given nation for a Christian is actually a lot harder when you think about it, honestly.
Yeah.
And this is the weird part, right? I don't really want to get into this too much, but as Christians, we're, the Bible basically says...
in case you guys didn't know, we're all Christians. We love Jesus. Back to the podcast.
It's complicated sometimes, and this is one of those times, because you get into patriotism, and Scripture says that we're citizens of heaven, essentially. Yeah. Having accepted the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ and all that stuff. We're citizens, therefore, of heaven, and that's our actual home, and that's where our focus should be in most cases. And so, when you get down to the nitty-gritty details of living in a particular society here on Earth, your support for that society is only in proportion to, how much, is only in proportion to how God would have you act in some sense. So it's kind of like, would God be patriotic if Jesus Christ were walking the streets of America today, what would he do and not do for the sake of America, as opposed to for the sake of France or for the sake of Britain or for the sake of Sudan?
Yeah, it does get interesting. It does get interesting as Christians.
Is it even reasonable for Christians to think about acting on behalf of one's country somehow?
Well, as Christians, it's different, or any given religion, because obviously, if you believe in a higher power, your first priority should be to that higher power. be it Allah or the Trinity, right?
Right.
So, I mean, in that case, it does get a little complicated because we're religious people first, Americans second. So I feel like patriotism should take a back seat, really, to whatever faith you subscribe to.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on that? Go.
I want to push back on that, but I'm not sure if I can formulate it correctly. I'm going to try anyway.
He's going to go for it.
I will try and help because I want to push back too.
So what I'm thinking based on that is that, well, yeah, in theory, God should come first. But if you're seeing legitimate injustices be done, then why wouldn't you stand up? I can very easily see the argument of, well, we're citizens of heaven. Be used as an argument of, oh, well, we don't really have to care. And it seems like it's kind of your duty to try and better the world for the heavenly kingdom coming down later on, and try to do all you can to make it better for that arrival as well.
Well, actually, I don't think that we're concerned about the world's state when Christ actually returns for the second time. I'm more personally concerned with its state while I'm here living in it.
That's fair.
I would rather... It's kind of like the ship's sinking and the end of the world is coming, and that means that we need to try to make the world as good a place as we can so that it's possible to reach out with compassion and the gospel to a whole bunch of other people. But
basically, we're trying to put as many people on lifeboats as we can while this thing sinks.
Yeah, basically.
Until a new ship shows up and says, "Hey, everybody, get on."
So kind of like the Titanic, except better.
Except there's enough lifeboats.
And Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, I'd like it if he was there. It'd be pretty cool.
There was enough room on that board for both of them. Okay.
There was enough, but was the buoyancy...
Yes, Mythbusters.
I know Mythbusters tested it. I don't give a rip. Okay.
Derailed.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm here now.
But I would say that part of that process of getting people on the lifeboats, as it were, for Christians, is to make sure that the ship isn't sinking too fast. So if you can get down in the hold and start pumping or something.
Yeah, if you can bail out water.
A good way to
bail out water.
Yeah.
Or there's
and that's kind of weird. It's basically saying if you can heal someone's illness so that they have more time to accept Christ, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if it's like they're gonna die next second, you can either share Jesus with them or prolong their life by 3 years. What are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna prolong their life by 3 years. I'm gonna administer the medicine or whatever it is, instead of just spewing Bible verses at them and hoping that they will somehow accept Jesus.
Biblical vomit. I'm coining that term right now.
If I were about to die, and somebody started spewing religious stuff at me, and they had in their hands some kind of antidote to my illness, I would be like, "You're a terrible human being, and I'm not gonna believe whatever it is that you want me to believe because you're not giving me what I need to live." Yes. I don't know.
This is not a family-friendly podcast, by the way. Considering I just did this while Josh was talking.
Max dropped the F-bomb.
Already?
Already. Okay, I've decided. Our next podcast, we're going to explain our position as Christians on things that are commonly considered sinful.
Yay! I want to talk about that.
Because we have to now. You forced... Josh, we came out of the Christian closet. We have to explain ourselves now.
You have forced our hand. Too bad we don't have Zane here. It would be nice to have his actual voice.
You forced our hand.
Segue right back into patriotism, and we can go on with our lives and not pretend that we just did something horribly taboo on the internet.
But we did horribly taboo things on the internet, so now we have to clarify it and fix things.
Do I have to strip to make this right?
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
It's a democracy, 2-1.
Wait, what's happening?
So the thing is that patriotism, reasonable expressions of patriotism, are kind of like administering that medicine. You want this nation to be better in some way. You want to improve it in some way on a large scale so that the people who live here have a better opportunity to, improve spiritually and get right with God, basically.
Yeah. That's the Christian perspective, but even like the secular perspective, you just wanted to get better so that people have better lives.
Yeah, that's the other part of it.
All right, thank you guys for watching.